Standard Games Podcast, episode 23, take 1.
Here we go. And we're here today with Arjen, the guy in the blue shirt. He has been in the podcast for, it's your third time.
Yep.
It's your third time. So
Right.
that's a new record.
Yeah, it's. I'm glad to be here on the best podcast out there. Of course,
It's the number one
It's,
podcast in the world.
Yeah, thanks to your million likes on the previous episode, which we asked for. Thank you so much.
Arjen is here today, and we're going to be talking about something very interesting, and that is...
Plant-based versus meat-based with working out, health, sleep, a lot of things. What are the differences? 3-4 months ago, I did 1 month of plant-based vegan food, and I actually really enjoyed it. So nowadays, I do that during the week. I eat plant-based, and in the weekend, I eat more meat, but also still try and have like proper meat because it's just 2 days. And Arjen,
Yeah, I myself, I mostly eat plant-based. So about 98% is plant-based, and I have been a vegetarian since I was 16, I think. So 5 years now, and actually went over to more plant-based 2 years ago. So yeah,
So the other 2%?
the 2% is when I'm outside with someone else, social gatherings, or just other stuff. And I am 100% vegetarian, so I don't eat meat and fish. But,
Exactly.
But sometimes when there's milk powder in something, I'm like, okay, it's not going to save the world. So,
Cool.
or for example, if I'm on holiday, so so I'm abroad and the options are limited, then I'm like, okay.
but that has gotten much better, right? In
Yeah,
terms
yeah,
of, because
sure.
I was in France a few weeks ago, and there was actually also someone who was plant-based. I remember 4 or 5 years ago, even eating vegetarian in France was almost impossible. But now every restaurant had like plant-based meals.
Yeah,
basically.
it's growing. The popularity is going up.
Definitely.
Especially like it was a big deal if you could see something in the supermarket, but in like if you go out for dinner,
Yeah.
like there used to be max one vegan option, which would be something very super limited,
Like a pasta or
yeah.
Or salad.
Or
or
salad.
the salad, and that you're like, all right, I mean, I'd rather maybe not go out for dinner and just choose something myself or make something myself. But yeah, now the options are getting bigger.
Yeah. So maybe first question to you is, what made you decide first to go vegetarian and then to go plant-based?
Well, actually, the main reason when I started was environmental reasons.
Yep.
So, of course, animal agriculture causes a lot of emissions and environmental harm. So that was actually the first reason, and I read into it, and that made me go vegetarian pretty fast. And since then, it was the main reason. But I actually went plant-based because of a combination of the ethics, so the ethical part of animal agriculture and the health side. So that was that was for me.
Outside for yourself.
Yeah, for myself. Yeah.
How did the sort of change go in the first place? Because going to vegetarian, especially like 5 years ago already, how did that go? Especially with your parents and everything and food.
It actually went pretty easy because I was reading into it. I was seeing videos, documentaries, and was like, oh damn! And it made me I was really interested in why is this and how does this work. So I spent a fair amount of time watching those videos, and then it was like I want to go vegetarian.
So that switch for yourself.
Yeah, so that switch was for myself, and then I was asking my parents. So I want to go vegetarian, and actually my brother. He joined me pretty fast. He was like, I was showing him the videos and showing him like, this is the case, and he was like, oh damn, I want to go vegetarian too. And now my entire family is vegetarian.
That's cool.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, because my brother has been a vegetarian for, I think, like 25 years or something.
Oh, wow.
And I remember when he started, because we were all still living at home, it was really difficult at the time. Like, you had like 2 options basically in the supermarket, like the really nasty corn burgers. I think that was basically the only thing. And so much has changed now. And then I remember my parents would often just cook vegetarian for everyone because it's easier, or just have something separate. How was it in the beginning for you? Was it like straight away, let's all eat vegetarian, or slowly?
Well, actually, it was straight away all vegetarian because my mother actually wanted it, but because of you live with three guys at home, so it was like, okay, then we're not doing it. But actually, she was like, I wanted that for a long time as well. So
cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you can kind of see sort of like I don't want to call it levels, but I'm just going to call it levels. So basically level 1.
Carnivore.
Level 2.
Omnivore.
Level
Herbivore.
3.
There we go.
There we go.
Basically. So that's very interesting. And I mean, you can see sort of like why and then you get to me and like, what is your why? My inspiring why? I don't have a why because that's just how you grew up, basically.
Yeah.
But the
But
argument.
you've tried it for a week or 2 weeks to be plant-based?
Yes. I've actually it was an entire week,
Entire week.
And it was actually pretty doable. It was pretty decent. I noticed that the meals you sort of make yourself are a lot better. They're very nice. They're like good than what you can buy in the supermarkets, most like straight out the box. So that takes a little bit more work. And I eat like a decent amount of supplements or whatever, like oats or protein pancakes. Vegan option of that one, the protein pancakes, wasn't all that good.
Yep.
But I would say I only eat a lot of like meat when it comes to like dinner. And that's basically it. Like there's not a lot of meat in like my breakfast or lunch. Could also be if I go for make something nice, but we do have sometimes a vegan option there as well, especially if Arjen is here. But also sometimes you have some vegan chicken. But
Which
it's
actually pretty good, by the way.
yeah.
The vegan chicken is really good.
The alternatives are getting better and better.
So that's what I wanted to say.
Yeah.
Like the alternatives, like the argument of it not being tasty enough or fast enough, it's getting less and less
Strong.
accurate
Yeah.
and stronger
Yeah.
because it's a lot easier to actually move to it. So I think at some point, if it's nutrition wise and easy wise and everything, I mean, you maybe even flow into it, or I personally would flow maybe into it a lot.
But I think
faster.
easy-wise, I think that's an interesting one. Because when I first did the month of vegan, the first 1 or 2 weeks, I struggled sort of with it. Always took so much time. I felt like
Exactly.
making a pasta with some meat is super fast, 10 minutes. But there's a lot of things like plant-based as well that just takes 10 minutes, 15 minutes.
Yeah,
and there's
you just
plenty
have
of
to.
options.
Yeah, you just have to find out which one are vegan, for example.
Yeah.
So when you go shopping, you know, oh, this brand is vegan, so I take this one. For example, with pasta, some pastas have egg in it, and some don't. So you just have to get in the flow, I think.
I guess that's it. That is the barrier right now. Like the first barrier, like the big barrier first would be like, I have to make so many compromises. I have to can't eat this. This is not as good. This the first switch, like what can I eat, what not? It's gonna take me an entire year to get used to that, for example. But now it's only quote unquote the first sort of probably year or half a year or whatever, getting used to everything, and then it's just I think it's like a lot of experience yourself, because if you I mean, let's say you have been vegan for like a year and then you go on holiday or you do something, then it's like, oh wait, there's an entire new experience, and then you're used to that, and then so you've been doing this for so long that it's like
it's like second nature to me. So.
it's exactly it will be literally the same for you how you eat as it is for me, probably, like the easiness, the speed of the meals, everything.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah,
exactly.
The only thing I really find annoying, that's not just plant-based or vegan. In general, the healthier the food is, the more expensive it gets.
Yeah,
and
but that's an issue. That's an whole other issue.
I know, but I think the interesting thing there is that I actually heard other podcasts about this, where they said, well, the issue is not that the healthy food is too expensive. The cheap food is really, really way too cheap, because you don't, you know, all the cost on the environment, we're still paying for it, everyone. But just as through taxes and other things, and not because... You know,
Exactly,
Yeah, true.
I think I find that personally, I mean, it depends on what your budget is, but I am fine spending a decent amount on good food, at least a decent amount compared to the cheap food.
Yeah.
But I find some food so cheap that I'm like, yo, how can you even, like, rice is obviously very cheap, but I'm talking about the unhealthy stuff. Like, get
20 hamburgers for €1, frozen.
20
Yeah,
something like that, or get like a bag of candy, which is like, I don't know, 5,000 calories for 20 cents, something like that, something crazy.
But what you said about the hamburgers is also because a lot of governments subsidize the meat industry, so that's why they are so cheap. Because
why is that? Do you know?
Yeah.
Why are they subsidizing that?
That's a good question. But
You would say it's the other way around. Like they would
Well, you would
subsidize
hope.
the
you would
vegan.
hope, yeah. But that's actually not the case, because especially in the Netherlands, Netherlands is a great example, because we are the second largest export producer for food, and especially when it comes to animal food. So for example, milk and meat. So we have a lot of farms, animal farms here in the Netherlands. So it's just a big export product, and because it's such a big export product, it's just a
Revenue.
huge revenue.
Yeah.
So it's just
Revenue
a huge,
source for the Netherlands.
Yeah.
All right.
All right.
I mean, it would, like it's again, it's like a sort of a barrier. I think if you look at it, Because it could be the other way around as well. Probably like being one of the biggest vegan export products, like being one of your biggest products. But that would take a lot of money and time in order to set that up.
Yeah.
You would hope for everything, like for if it's just ethics or just the environment, that would be the case more. But that's a deeper issue, I guess.
And now the sad part is that recently the Dutch government says, well, not eating meat is not on the list of
it's not
climate
in the agenda
actions
anymore.
Yeah, it's not in the agenda anymore for doing things for climate.
Yeah.
It's like
it was literally like, I think it was something like maybe this was a wrong quote, but I mean, we got to do what we got to do, but we should all still be able to have some meat on the barbecue. Something like that. I think the prime minister said something like that.
But I do think that the goal shouldn't be to have everyone eat no meat at all. I think it's perfectly fine if we all eat a bit of meat every now and then, but you choose the proper meat, right?
Yeah.
It's a lot about that as well.
And that the full vegans weigh out the fool.
No, but I mean, for example, if you just eat meat once or twice a week, but you get actual proper meat that's been biologically like grown and everything, or grown, that's not the right word here, but get like proper food, have a good life as well, because that's also important, and not mass produced. I think that's fine. I don't think there has to be an issue there. But the issue is just eating meat 5 times a day, mass produced like bioindustry.
Yeah, that's the biggest issue. Yeah,
100% probably also for the environment. That's the biggest issue. It's the amount of meat and the way it's produced. So I guess that if you would lower the amount produced by like 50%, it will probably have an impact of like 80% because of the
But the big problem with just meat in general is that it's highly ineffective in the way it produces calories.
The water
for example, the cattle feed that needs to be produced.
Yeah.
A large amount of rainforest in the Amazon is cleared for soybeans, and 90% of the soybeans that are produced are actually meant to be a cattle feed. So you have just huge amount of food that goes into one cow, and then you get just a small amount of meat out of it. So, for example, I think at the top of my head, like 70% of the land that is used for agriculture is used for cattle, and of that, only less than 1/5 is actually the calories that come from that.
Yeah.
So it's like highly ineffective when it comes to that.
It will be more effective for us to just eat the beans.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
So you can feed far more people. So it's just that's the problem also.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's because we wanted to speak about a few different topics when it comes to this. You already said the first one, like I became vegetarian because of health benefits.
Yeah.
Can you tell us more about what health benefits you've actually managed or noticed yourself, but also more in general, like what are?
I think it's no. Well, because I've been a vegetarian for so long, it's really hard to see differences.
Yeah.
So for me, it's not really that I feel different, or I actually feel better when I eat, for example, a lot of vegetables instead of a lot of processed foods. But when it comes to the meat base, so just a good quality meat or plants, I do not know or feel any differences. But I do think that the main health benefits lies in the inside. So just longevity and just diseases that are building up. For example, eating too much red meat. So high amount of red meat each week will increase chances of cardiovascular diseases or that sort of stuff. So that's basically why.
And then of course all the antibiotics we actually get through meat because the animals
hormones.
are getting and hormones.
Yeah.
Yeah.
True.
Okay. So and those were the ones you probably read into when changing to vegetarian.
No, actually, when I changed into more vegan, plant-based.
Plant-based. All right.
So in the beginning, it was just environment.
Yeah, okay. That's interesting. That's an interesting one. And I actually I like that about the way your reason why you sort of changed, because that is a pretty valid reason. I mean, I think ethics is also a valid reason.
I think that's the biggest and best one, because
Which
environment?
One?
The ethics, because the environmental and the health issue there's so much research on it and so much debate about it actually. And some of it is valid and some of it is not so valid, but it's a bit more controversial. So the environmental and the health issue, that's a bit more controversial. And the ethics is just really strong because it's doable to have a plant-based diet and be healthy and build muscle and that sort of stuff. So it's just doable. It may be a bit harder because obviously there are not a lot of options in restaurants, that sort of stuff. So it may be a bit harder, but because it's not necessary, then all the negative sides when it comes to animal welfare, so the animal cruelty and that sort of stuff, becomes unnecessary. And that's why I think the ethical part is such a strong one, because it's not necessary. So with that as a prerequisite,
I would have said or I thought the environment one is the strongest one, and also the one that has been researched the most, and is also the one, because ethics you can't really research, because that's more like a personal, and obviously most of the time agreed on. Videos you see are obviously crazy, and they make you want to go vegan at that point, right? When you see them, the nature of it, as in like you eat meat to survive, as in.
Yeah, a lot of animals eat other animals.
That's the point, because there are parts in the world where it's really necessary to eat meat and to kill animals, because
and here it is not, obviously.
And here it's not. So the point that it, as a prerequisite, that it's unnecessary, so it's you can do it without, makes the ethical part so strong.
But you could sort of agree on that killing animals, or in that way for food, used to be necessary, or is something that happens, is a nature's thing, sort of. The way we do it, definitely like not. Yeah. But as in the environment, that is sort of a point, like that is going to destroy everyone, as in like the way we're doing it in that way. True. So I would look at the environment like that is super strong, and then the ethics, obviously, hell yeah, let's quit that. Like that. So
basically, because the environmental issue relates to us, so it's actually for us a bad side, and for when it comes to ethic, it's more for the animal. Yeah. All right.
Well, but
and I mean that makes it sort of sound bad, like you don't care about the animals, because like I said, if you see those videos, you wanna quit it right away. But it's more about the fact that it sort of is normal in nature, not the way we do it.
But that it is in nature doesn't mean that we need to do it ourselves. So I think, for example, that a tiger kills a prey doesn't mean we're allowed to.
No,
do the same.
That doesn't mean that we have to eat meat. Definitely not. But I think one of the reasons why I but that's a personal thing, like the way that I do it, is also when you think back sort of at how we evolved as humans. Of course, we had to hunt, right? At some point, it was necessary. And meat was sort of a bonus. Sometimes you had meat, very often you didn't, depending on where you lived in the world. So I'm sort of thinking, at least that's probably just validating it for myself, giving myself a reason to still eat meat a few days a week. Okay, so meat, sometimes there's nothing wrong with it, if possible, and because I have the budget, I can buy like wild meat, which was actually not raised on the farm or anything. I don't know. I think it's just validating it for myself.
Why has that not stopped yet? Do you know that? As in, like, why do governments not
money,
right? Money is the answer.
That's the answer, just money.
Because there's so many.
It's such a huge industry. It's just the size of it is unimaginable. It's
because there's so many awful videos out there.
But but the governments often say, "Oh, but we've improved so much over the past 10, 20 years." Sure, the really worst things over here in let's say the Western world, sure, but there's still so much that could be changed so easily.
Yeah, and also a lot of governments, because the environmental issue is such a big one, complex one, there are many more components to it. So they see it as, okay, so we have this option, this option, this option. And of course, animal agriculture is a really big one, but there are also other things we can improve. So they're just like, okay, so we need to tweak certain things. And when it comes to animal agriculture, that's such a huge industry that they think like, okay, but it's bringing a lot of revenue, so maybe we can switch other things, for example, electric cars or that sort of stuff. So that's the reason. But I would like to see a bit more improvements there.
Yeah.
Well, maybe because I think the ethical part we can all agree on that it's terrible what's happening. But I think the environmental part, what is interesting, you said, is there's a lot of debate and some things are true, some things are not true. What are some of the things that we often hear that are not true about environment and meat then, if you...
Well, for example, the argument goes that soybeans are just as bad, or that just having tofu instead of meat is just as bad, because soybeans also cost a lot of water, and rainforest is cleared to produce soybeans. But the point of soybeans is that 90% of the soybeans produced is used for cattle feed. So that's the main point. And then it's like, all right, so if we use the soybeans just as soybeans, then we would have had way more food. So that's basically one of the myths that's going out there.
And also that soybeans are bad for you?
All right, that's also a good one. So that's That's that because there is sort of estrogen. How do you say that?
Yeah, the hormone estrogen. It will affect in women, and it make them infertile. Like
I think so.
Yeah, but the
That's what
point
they
is
say.
that it's not really estrogen, but phytoestrogen. So it's more of a. It does look like it, but it does not have the same effects in the human body. So actually,
so there is no effect, or is there an effect?
there's no effect.
No matter how much you eat.
No.
Interesting. So
Yeah.
like that's what I was sort of.
Yeah, because
told.
it's more
maybe
if
even
it's-
by you, as in like we spoke about it one time, and it was like 3 years ago that you said, "Oh, you shouldn't eat too much soya or whatever."
Well, shouldn't eat too much soy. It's probably true because it's still a pretty taxing product for the environment. So there are still better alternatives to soybeans. So
What like okay? So what's your diet like? Do you really look into plant-based, but also really look into what type of plant-based, environmentally wise, or do you think that's what I'm doing? And
plant-based is doing the.
But that's going to have a big,
it's gonna
big
have a
impact on everything.
So
yeah.
it's for me it's plant-based.
yeah,
Yeah. I want to actually talk about that because it's a hard topic because diet is so personal.
True.
Diet is so personal and it's so it's involved in cultures, cultural traditions, all that sort of stuff. So it always is really hard to talk about diet because if I say, "Oh, I don't eat meat," then while doing that and while not intending that, I'm criticizing someone else that is eating meat. And people get really offended by people that are doing something different.
Well,
and that's so hard. So I think it's really hard to talk about even on this podcast because I know a lot of people are like, a bit of
what has annoyed me in the past, and it's on both sides, by the way, people who eat meat and people who are vegan,
definitely,
is sometimes that when you say that you do eat meat, for example, certain people who are plant-based are really attacking you on a personal level. Well, I think the discussion we're trying to have is the discussion you should be having. So why are you eating meat and why should you maybe think about changing it? Just like the other way around, when people say, "Hey, I'm vegan," then like, "Oh, why?" And they come with like stupid insults to those people. But I think the whole discussion should be more on a higher level, like what
totally
we're trying to do.
Yeah, I totally agree because it's so. Yeah, there's a lot of emotions behind it, and I do get why some vegans are so, how would you say that? So aggressive in their methods. Yep. I do get that, but it's not working, and it's just causing more harm than good, I think.
I agree. So I'd like to move to fish because for a very long time, I believed that actually eating fish wasn't as harmful for the environment and other things. Well, I've seen Seaspiracy, which is maybe a bit over the top, could be.
Yeah.
But it did open my eyes to it's much different than what I thought.
Yeah.
What's your view on that, and what's the impact there on environment?
Yeah, actually, fish is also for me recently. Well, I don't eat meat. If I don't eat fish, I didn't eat fish for over 5 years. But actually, recently I read into that as well. And the problem with fish is that it's such a massive industry again, and it's just so much fishing going on, and it's killing it's killing a lot of fish species, and you get a sort of trophic cascade. And then what a trophic cascade is that certain species are eaten by other species. So if you fish out one species, then you get a sort of topward down effect, and a lot of other species die out as well. And when that happens, the ocean becomes just a lot more efficient at doing what the ocean does. And one of the functions of the ocean is to stabilize the climate. So also the climates gets more unstable. So actually, there's a lot of connections
snowball
with the
effect, basically.
snowball effect
because of the coral reefs and stuff like that gets affected as well because of that's what we saw in the Seaspiracy. Because of species just dying out, and also because of all the fishing and harming the ground. So it's also again a lot of environment which would get affected.
And then again, it's the problem for ourselves because the oceans are getting more unstable, and then our climate gets more unstable, and then we have just
plus with fish these days we just eat plastic as well.
That's another So
other way.
The fish industry is causing a lot of plastic pollution in the oceans. And of course, fish eat that. You get microplastic. And I don't think that plastics are really good for us.
I'm pretty sure it's not.
Although the research is very limited on microplastic when it comes to the human health effects.
Can't be healthy.
And how we sort of get rid of it.
Yeah, I want to put it out there that I believe that it's not that healthy for us.
No.
Don't think either. No.
Let's move to the very interesting. You already mentioned it before. So making gains. So of course we speak a lot about working out here, and one of the things, the common misconceptions is if you don't eat meat, it's very difficult to get enough protein in, to get enough gains in. Well, what's your opinion?
Yeah. I do think I'm not the guy that says, "Oh, it's easier," or "It's just as easy." I do think it's a bit harder.
Yep.
Because you have to pick out your food types a bit more. So for example, you need to eat more beans, more that sort of stuff. So it's a bit harder, but it's totally doable. It's actually, when you just get in the flow again, it's so easy.
What are things you have to pay attention to when it comes to food and working out as plant-based?
Eating enough, that's a big one, especially when you want to gain muscle.
Yep.
Because a lot of people notice that when they go plant-based, they just have to eat such a large amount of food because usually plant foods are low in calories, high in nutrients. So you can eat tons of food without getting fat. So it's a bit when trying to gain muscle, you need to make sure you get also the nuts and seeds and the peanut butter in to get enough calories to build muscle. So that's a big
How about iron?
Part.
I mean, it's not necessarily for building muscle, but I think it is a supplement that's important.
Yeah, so just basically the micronutrients that are important, like magnesium, iron, zinc.
Exactly. Yeah.
I think leafy greens are a great way to get those in. So I personally myself, I do. I use a lot of arugula and spinach to get my iron in. So basically, in every meal, well, not in every meal, but in meals where it suits. So with a lot of vegetables already, I just sprinkle some arugula on top, or I cut some spinach and put it in there as well. So I get all the micronutrients necessary.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's nice. So I experienced myself for 7 days when I did it. I didn't really notice that it was hard to get the micros or macros in. It was just a little bit more work, but to get them actually in, that was doable.
Yeah, I actually lost quite a bit of weight in the first week because I had the issue what you had. You eat a lot of volume, but not a lot of calories. So that's something I just had to realize. And okay, nuts, dates, things like that actually help a lot getting the calories in. Because you might feel full, but it doesn't mean you get enough in.
It's great for losing weight.
But I mean, I like food, so I was like, I can eat what I can eat. So if
it's great for people who like food.
We actually went to a restaurant that week. I think it's the second time we ever met up.
Yeah, we did go to a restaurant, indeed. That was during that time. So that's an interesting fact.
I remember that we were Googling like half the things on the menu and even like the sauce we got next to the bread. Like, is this vegan? Is this not vegan? Because people, they didn't even know in the restaurant.
No, they didn't even know.
Oh, wow.
Like, is this vegan? Is this sauce vegan? Yeah, I don't know.
But now most people do know.
I think so,
yeah.
right?
I mean, this was a year and a half ago. No,
I think so.
Yeah.
Maybe. Yeah.
So
maybe it depends.
Depends
on which restaurant.
Probably. But I mean, okay, I like food. So if I was like, wait, I still got calories left. Let's go.
Exactly.
You are tracking it, and I think that's a good tip. If you actually go plant-based and you do care about like getting enough calories in, which you should.
Yeah, track it.
Definitely in the beginning, track it because it's going to be very different from what you're used to.
I would have died if I wouldn't have tracked it. I would have just because I would go crazy. I just wanted to try. I wanted to get the gains in. That's what at that point because I wanted to. But that's also how you learn basically. If you just track everything, you learn a lot. Same thing applies to like I know a lot about food. When I look at it, I can say probably like that's 350 calories or something like that. Yeah. And has probably like 15 grams of protein, something like that. But that I would have to sort of relearn that with all the vegan foods because that's different than what I normally.
For me, beans is like, oh, I know that in 1 can of beans there's like 20 grams of protein. Yeah, that sort of stuff. I know that because of experience.
Yeah,
exactly.
So what are the main go-to protein sources for you?
Beans, lentils, tofu, tempeh, nuts, peanut butter is a big one as well. Vegan protein powder for supplements.
Yeah.
I used it sometimes.
Which has gotten much better over the past years.
Yeah, definitely. There are really bad ones.
Yep.
Really, really bad ones. And also just things like pasta has a bit of protein in it, so just eat enough. Yeah. So basically that's it. Yeah.
Yeah.
That are main sources.
I think tofu is something I've really started eating so much more. Tempeh, not as much, because actually it's not, I mean, there's nice ways to make it, but it's very easy to make it that it's not very nice.
True, yeah, you need to get good ones.
Yeah, you definitely need to learn that. But
so in a versus way, as in like diet plant-based versus the I'm just gonna call it regular diet. In what way is it different? So that's a good question. In what way is it different? Like,
I think you eat a lot more meals that are not different food groups, but just something as a whole. So it's pasta mixed with vegetables or beans mixed with vegetables instead of just having rice, broccoli, chicken.
Yeah.
You definitely can do it as well. Just
so it's
rice,
like more
broccoli,
like one bowl.
Yeah.
vegan chicken, but it's more like one bowl. I think that's the biggest difference.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What does your breakfast look like?
It's oats. It's oats with vanilla protein powder and peanut butter and some chia seed and flaxseed because of omega-3s and other micronutrients and also a bit of protein.
And lunch?
Lunch for me depends. That differs a lot. Sometimes it's pasta or sometimes it's rice with beans or rice with something else or wraps. I do like wraps a lot.
Yeah.
That
with
as well.
A lot of
Although
just
even there's a lot of
greens.
wraps which aren't vegan.
Yeah, true. You need to watch out for that as well.
Yeah.
Which part of that isn't vegan? Is it the milk powder? No. What you do?
Eggs sometimes.
Eggs, yeah.
Yeah.
Some
Okay.
weird E numbers.
Yeah.
But I mean, it also depends on how far you want to take it. I think for a lot of people, just going plant-based, and sure, there might be like small traces and everything.
Exactly.
That's fine.
That's why I said 98% for me.
exactly.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just to make it a little bit easier for yourself.
Because,
Which makes sense because the impact of probably eating a wrap that is vegan or that is not vegan. Not
not gonna
sure
be-
what the impact is.
it's just because the society is built around animal products. So
Yeah.
milk powders and basically everything, but it's not needed. For example, cookies. Some cookies do have milk powder, some cookies do not, but they taste pretty much the same. But it's just because there's a lot of milk powder, they use milk powder.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I think if you talk about versus, what a lot of people will notice, and that's just because their diet is really shit right now, is that once they start eating vegan,
True. This is
plant-based,
super true.
Yeah.
like just look at what will happen into your gut and to everything, because people eat so much processed food and not like legumes and those kind of things.
And they have to now look at the back of the product. They have to look
Yeah.
at what's in there in order to eat vegan on itself. And if you're busy with that and you see, well, first of all, they're probably shit vegan products as well, as in like
Yeah,
that-
they're
that are
definitely
best, so-
Oreos are vegan.
Oh, there
Okay,
you go.
yeah.
So
that's
a
a
big
good
one.
one.
But
Yeah, okay.
there are tons of vegan junk food.
Yeah.
Yeah,
which
but
is delicious,
If
by
I,
the way. But
if I think back at the holiday I was at, so we were with a group of friends, and one guy was vegan, and he was basically making dinner and lunch every day because, well, he wanted to have like nice vegan meals. And there was one guy who never, like the first time we had lentils, he said, "Well, what is this? I've never seen these things." I mean, if you would share the bedroom with him those nights, wouldn't be fun because he was farting all night.
Yeah.
Because he wasn't used to it. But it's just because he was eating so much shit food and processed food, and now he was eating like whole foods
Real
and
foods.
real
Yeah.
food and legumes and those things.
Yeah.
And that's what most people will notice as a difference, I think.
And that's also why I like to say plant-based instead of vegan, because vegan you can still eat chips and cola, but when you say plant-based, you actually say something about the diet, actually, because
Yeah.
it's actually
True.
plant-based because you eat plants. So
Yeah.
that's why I like plant-based more over vegan, because veganism is actually also more the ethical philosophy. So also products such as leather and that sort of stuff. So that's why I say plant-based diet, because that really says something about my diet and what I eat.
Yeah.
It says also more about, about you, as in like I'm doing this for.
Oh yeah, no. I think vegan, the term on itself, I do agree.
Yeah.
with.
Okay. Cool. That's just what I wanted to make
Yeah,
sure
yeah,
that was
yeah.
out there. Yeah. Okay.
All right. Well, I would definitely say everyone should just try it for a few weeks or a month.
Yeah.
Just try it once and see how you like it, see change, and then do what works for you. But just being aware of all of these things is, I think, super, super important.
Yeah, and also just get the conversation going, like we do. So just have a good conversation with people who do eat meat and do not eat meat. Just talk about it on a good without too much emotions or.
I remember I once had a discussion with someone who has a carnivore diet, which is the opposite of plant-based, only animal products.
How did that go?
Yeah.
It was interesting because, well, he claimed that if you look back at our nature, how I said that meat was sort of an extra he said, no, the only thing we ate was meat when we evolved.
It's both.
It's both.
It's both.
So, and that was one of the, but I mean, I think the breakfast was 6 eggs and a steak.
What the hell?
And then lunch was 6 eggs and a steak. And dinner was
6
Just
eggs and a steak.
a lot of, well, the only thing that he told me is you have to eat everything. So you have to eat the liver, the heart, because you need iron and you need other things.
Yeah.
So you actually do eat everything from the animal. But it's very much the opposite of. But it's interesting to have conversations, as you say. Just why do you do this? And
Yeah, the question is,
I know he quit as well at some point
Oh,
eating that.
the question is like, how is he doing?
Yeah.
Because that's
But there are people that are doing that for a long time and
Yeah.
not die.
Also eating raw meat.
Yeah,
there's like this
there's
guy on
some-
YouTube who only eats raw meat. Like
Yeah,
that's
there-
the only thing he eats.
There is some disgusting stuff out there.
It's crazy.
Yeah,
At least I think it's disgusting.
I think it's delicious.
There actually is a Dutch guy that does it.
I think he is.
And
yeah.
he eats also rotten meat.
Yeah,
so he
exactly.
let
So
it
it makes-
rot, and then it's like it's all.
It's sort of like he's trying to prove that you can't die from it, but that's like weird to say because there's a lot of people who get
Do
really
die
sick
from it, yeah.
from meat that is
Yeah.
that's not even
Yeah.
cooked properly. So, but hey, that's interesting. That's interesting. That's also like maybe we should get him in the pocket
Could be interesting. Yeah.
with Arjen.
And we'll just sit there.
Have a good conversation. I'm all about just
Yeah,
keeping
yeah,
the
yeah,
peace. And,
true.
yeah.
True. Arjen is
All
not
right.
about the jabs.
No, I'm not about the jabs. No,
No.
no,
More about the defense. No, also not.
no. Just talk about it on a professional level.
Yeah. I
Okay.
think that's good.
Yeah.
Cool.
Perfect. Well, I think that's... thank you so much, Arjen.
Yeah.
For being here again. And we will definitely have you back here again.
For
fourth time.
third time.
Third,
Third time.
third.
For
Yeah.
third time. There you go.
All right, there you go.
Nice.
Well, it
So
was,
we got the verses sort of talked about. So in what way it is different, and I think the sort of conclusion we could draw is try it out
Yeah.
and have your own opinion. Talk about it, which is very
yeah, and
important.
research it.
Research it, and well, do what feels good, do what feels right, but also make sure you actually think about it. And,
Yeah.
And if you're going to try it, prepare a bit. So you don't have to
Yeah.
start today. Start reading first a bit. How should you have your diet? Otherwise, you might start, you're hungry or you're not getting your nutritions in, so you think it's shit. And
Yeah,
by preparing, you actually
exactly.
avoid that.
Yeah.
brain,
Right.
big brain. Okay, thank you guys so much for watching. Make sure to smash the like, hit subscribe, and hit that bell, and we'll see you in the next episode. Bye bye, boy.